I'm Debbie.
And I'm Alison.
And we're the poltergals. Spooky. Hi, I'm Debbie.
And I'm Alison.
And we're
the poltergals.
Welcome back to another episode. And as you guys can see or hear, we have a polter pal in the studio. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sean, otherwise known as Infernal Foulness on Instagram, but I am one half of Southern Storm Paranormal PRT, Paranormal Research Team from Sydney, Australia.
Yes, and we can tell by your accent you're from Australia, so that's pretty cool. So,
bit of a giveaway.
Yeah, just a little bit.
The question is, are we the ones with accents to you?
Y'all don't have an accent as broad as I thought you would, but hey, it's English and I can understand it.
That's good. That's good. Should we say mate? Should we be like, hey, mate?
I think we should stick to the normal Texas thing and go to y'all.
Yeah, I think
so that way
Australians
he says
say
mate,
y'all.
and then we say y'all.
If that works for y'all.
Y'all? Yeah, everybody
right.
says y'all.
Oh, well, look at there.
That works great.
What a universal term.
Wow. Texans and Australians building bonds.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So one of our first questions is, obviously, you're a paranormal investigator. So tell us how you got involved in paranormal investigating.
I'd say high school, 9th grade.
Wow.
High school, 9th grade, the early start of being just curious of, reading books about, Bigfoot, UFO, aliens, ghosts, paranormal, and even lovely interest in the spontaneous human combustion.
Wow.
And I think it sort of grew a bit more about 5-6 years ago when I was just skimming through stuff on the internet about haunted places and this and that, and realised the joints here in Sydney, in the local area, that were reputably haunted, and I went out to a paranormal expo that was held at one of these places, and then I thought, okay, well, if this is one of the joints that's haunted around here, how many more other places can there be? And then, wow, it was just a cavalcade of interest that swamped me. And then I thought, hey, if there's groups out here that are into this stuff and go hang out in graveyards and haunted places and all that kind of thing, I want to be a part of it. So I did. Joined one group from a guy out in Bankstown, Andrew, and joined Paranormal Interventions Australia, and I was with him for 3 years or so. Then jumped on to another group in the hometown in Wollongong, and was with a guy and my current partner now, Steph, doing our thing down there. But then, how can I put it lightly, things fell apart. And
I know some of the stories.
You
told me.
Story, so, yeah.
I will say she's read most of the stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, the less said about him, the better. So given that we both still had the passion and the obsession for it, we sort of put our heads together and joined our own little group of 2. And that sort of entity grew into what it was now. And we've been doing it now for what? 3? Yeah, 3 years.
Wow.
So, 5-6 years in with the interest in it. And now I've got my little duo getting out and about. And, I love it. Can't switch it off, can't turn it off. It's an obsession.
That's so cool. So you've been doing this for 3 years now. So obviously you're coming from the Australia area. Tell us some of the most haunted places there.
I think a lot of stuff that people would look into if they were to say, Google that sort of thing or look into the history of what it is, especially, it's definitely our colonial past. When, the white settlers came and invaded and everything like that. And there's a lot of, the penal colonies that were set up in here, and there's a lot of places that are still, building-wise, they're still standing, have a lot of history. Some are terribly, terribly dark places where a lot of death went on, and there's a lot of residual energy at these spots. There's only a few that I've been to here in Sydney. I haven't had a chance to get out of been to a few places in Victoria and Queensland, but there's one particular spot I'd love to go to in Tasmania, which I've been offered to go to in the past, but couldn't get down there. And that's the Royal Derwent Hospital in New Norfolk, which has a massive mental health asylum there. That's, as we all know, mental asylums, mental hospitals, crazy places. I'm lucky enough to actually have one about 5-10 k's south of me, which is now an old folks home, but in its day was what do you call it? One of those, tuberculosis hospitals back in the early 1900s. It has a lot of tormented patients and residents that are still there, and has a huge graveyard at the rear of the property that has 2,609 people buried there.
Wow.
Crazy ass place.
Yeah, we talk about tuberculosis and the sanatoriums quite a lot. We've
Yeah.
covered like two, three.
There's a lot of them out.
It's
a lot.
it's quite a bit, honestly, and it's the same story told pretty much
Universally.
every time.
Exactly.
And it's so sad.
Yep. There's one further out in the Blue Mountains that I've been to. I was lucky enough before the site got bought by new owners. I was very lucky with Andrew to have investigated that twice or 3 times. And the paranormal lockdown we did in there was with the blessing of the caretaker, who let us in about 8 o'clock at night. We were there till about 2 in the morning, and that place was fucked. It was off the scale.
Wow.
There was some crazy stuff that happened to me there that we caught, that we recorded, and we kept captures, and would have had all that stuff on my old post before it was the Chef Sean 666 bio has gone, unfortunately, because I think I got hacked last December. But if I could get hold of all that old footage, I'd definitely repost it. But that place, Queen Victoria Hospital, is off the scale.
Yeah.
Crazy ass spot.
And you sent me a few audio recordings and some of your other works that you've done, and you've also you post on Reddit, right? So you do a lot of like sound recordings and video. What is some of the equipment that you use?
I started out with the basics. I think what every little amateur hunter started out with, a digital recorder, a small digital recorder, a few of the devices. Luckily, I was given or lent or gifted, which was nice. Built up the toys and the tools over the years, and finally got myself, which I wanted and Steph wanted for ages. Finally got the Ovilus 5B, which, not bragging, but I don't know many people in Sydney or in New South Wales or Australia that have many. And we went through a lot of BS, unfortunately, with the creator getting it sent out here to Australia, and issues with him, whose name we won't mention, and managed to get it through a ghost hunter friend in California, and then she sent it out to us. So we have Ollie, our Ovilus. All the toys have names, and built up the kit a bit more in the last few years, and got a few more, the basic kind of stuff that nearly everybody has. But it was a big kick to get the Ovilus. I'm still kind of working out the nuts and bolts of it and the finer points, but it's had some pretty interesting results from it as well.
That's pretty cool.
So you had mentioned earlier about a lockdown. When you do go into lockdowns, what does that look like for y'all? Do y'all do like an overnight, or is it just certain specific hours?
I think I've done 2 so far, and shall we say, the only one that I kind of did sort of cross the line into trespassing was the not the security need to know that, the place that's down from my place, Garrawara Hospital. Everyone knows. Everyone that's into urbex and all that shit around here knows about Garrawara. As it turns out, the foot in the door, you might say, that we had to that was the guy that used to work there as a nursing student, who's the person who shall remain unnamed. He was there as a nursing student 20 odd years ago, and he knows every inch of the buildings, the corridors, the shower block, the rooms. He remembers the patients. That was an interesting way to get in there, but the way that we actually physically got in there was not the most legal entry possible, but hey, didn't get caught. And that was heading in about, say, 9 o'clock at night. And I think the longest we stayed there, when everyone was starting to get really tired and fed up and wigged out, was got in there about 9 p.m. and we left about 3 in the morning, 10 past 3 in the morning. And that was, when I say free reign or lockdown, it's, well, yeah, lockdown as in got in and didn't leave. But we did have a couple of close calls when the security camera torches and cars were going past, so we sort of kept quiet and turned all our lights off. But the one up in the Blue Mountains, Queen Victoria Hospital, that was with permission of the caretaker. I don't know about permission of the owners, but that was, yeah, rocking up about 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And he opened the gate, let us all in with all our tech, toys, gears, car and that, and he locked it. And he basically said, look, message me or call me when you guys want to leave, or you've had enough, or shit's too much. And that was twice we did that, and in winter, and it was cold. I know, not cold like American winter cold, but here and up in the Blue Mountains, which is further west, we had sleet and the early stages of not so much snow, but there was sleet falling, and it was about 2 degrees and very, very cold. Added to the effect, added to the atmosphere, but there would have been in the first lockdown about 9 of us, maybe 10 of us, and that was just completely off the scale. That place is active as, and yeah, there's a few things I remember from that night that will be etched in my memory for a long time. There was a few things that happened to me. I was one thing I clearly remember was having my backpack I had on behind me yanked down. Something pulled my bag down and made me fall on my ass, like yanked my bag down.
Wow.
And I dropped on my ass. Person in front of me was like, what happened there? I said, oh, something just pulled my bag down. And dude, there's nothing behind me. There is nothing. So that was very intense. There was a lot of strange noises and things that we thought we saw, did see. Had some crazy EVPs in the morgue. One of the crazy girls that went with us decided to actually lie on the morgue slab tray. And yeah, I kind of drew a line at that, and I couldn't do that. But that place up there in the mountains is intense. But now they've rezoned it, new land, new owners, very high security, cameras, alarms, and drones. So now it's kind of a bit of a harder place to get to, but I think the local kids up there still hang around it. So pretty cool spot.
So, sorry if you see me writing also. It's just questions that I'm writing down so I don't forget. But one of them that I'd written down was, do you think that in certain situations it's necessary to push buttons in order to provoke a spirit to come out?
Oh,
and if you do,
yeah,
where does that line, like, where should you draw that line for you not to cross it to where negative things do start to happen to you or for it to follow you?
Okay, that is a perfect question, and for me, suited very well because as I do post and as I do say publicly in a lot of my stuff, I like to push the buttons. I like to cross the line. That's just the kind of person I am. I like to have a dig, have a shit stir, have a bit of a provoke. And from this approach to doing investigations and that, I have gotten some friggin' crazy ass results, recordings, and EVPs where, what was one of the best ones? There's a place that if y'all ever came down under, I would have to take you to the Bloody Mile. It's a spot down the coast where it's just an awful spot where it has a history of a lot of deaths, accidents, stabbings, murders. My God, there was a baby that was dismembered by the mother's sister. Crazy ass spot. And it's a pitch black little, like a walkway through a bush area. That's all it is, next to the side of the road, but it's drenched in negative energy. And I had oh, what was it? I was having a bit of a shit stir at the reputed spirit of this lady that did cut up this baby and dismembered a baby. And I challenged her. I said, whatever her name was, the name escapes me. I said, if you want to pick on someone your own size and you want a knife fight, I'm a chef. I'll bring my knife. You bring your knife and we'll have a go. I was like, come on, bitch, give me your best shot. And the EVP through the spirit box within about 30 seconds was going after Sean.
Whoa.
I heard that
I got
and I heard my
goosebumps.
name. And that was Change the Undies time. That was crazy. And that place even still, as I'm talking about it, the hairs on my arms are standing up. It's a crazy spot. I like the provoking. It's got some serious fun to it. I do think, yes, there's a line you can cross, and I know the whole respect the dead kind of thing, but you know what? For me, for the sake of getting a decent capture or a decent reaction, um, we've done this technique before and had something manifest on an SLS camera where Steph, who does it with me, had this lady, Mary Barrett, form, appear, manifest, whatever you want to call it, as a stick figure. And Steph was saying, like, silly old bitch, you want to go, take a shot. She said this, and this SLS, yellow stick figure made an arm and a fist sort of, like that. And it swung at Steph, like this stick figure went to go punch Steph. And that was crazy. That was crazy. And that's in an old pioneer cemetery that's been around for, 1870s, 1880s, very long time. Big Irish family that settled the area are buried there. And there's a lot of other restless spirits that we like to go and shit stir every now and then. But that was two crazy captures we had that did come from provoking. And I think, yeah, look, if you want to take it to that further level and get in trouble and risk having something follow you home or have an attachment jump on you, um, it's all part of the gig. But if you want to do that, I reckon go for it. If you don't, then hey, that's fine.
Have
Whatever
you
floats your boat.
have you ever felt like you've had something follow you from provoking?
Yep.
Yeah.
As it turns out, despite the position I'm sitting in, the recent design T-shirt that I got made from the artist we got our first shirt done by, Danny, the logo he created for us. He also did this logo on my jumper now. This was from when how do I put this? Very skeptically, I was told and believed that one of my neighbors, who, how we say, says she sees things, reckons that once I was downstairs in my garage in my man cave, and her and her husband drove past as they were driving out, and they saw, so she says, they saw this big black smoky like thing behind me. And she said, whenever I've seen you down there, this thing is with you, this thing is behind you. She also said one day when she came to talk to me that this thing that she sees is behind me as we were speaking. It's looking at me, it's smiling at me. And when she was in my house, chatting to me, she said, it's behind you right now in the window, and we are on the first floor. So we're like, what, 15, 20 foot off the ground? And she said, this thing is behind you right now. So I asked her, like, what did you sort of see, or how do you sort of distinguish this thing? She goes, I've actually noticed that it's been behind you for quite a while now. And she says, the same old kind of default answer, I think, that it's feeding off your negativity. It's feeding off depression. It's feeding off negativity, anger, hate. And basically I'm giving it a buffet. And it's kind of stuck with me and it's attached to me. She goes, I don't know where you got it from. But I also then, with this tip off, consulted to other people off Instagram. One's an energy healer, a light worker, and spiritualist called Debbie. And they also contacted the guy that she referred me to in India. Very skeptical as I was, I asked these people. They gave me a reading. Yeah, the Indian guy said he can cleanse this thing from me for 700 Australian dollars. no thanks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think what I was told about this attachment was that she apparently picked up that there are certain initials associated with this thing came to her in a dream where it was identified as having two certain letters in the name of this person of who it was. So where I think this thing may have followed me from is actually my local cemetery. So I went up there, cross-referenced with the database as to where this PD or DP person might be. I found a grave of this Darius Pazarski, who I don't know who it is, but in one of my earlier posts on Instagram of a confrontation, if you will, with me trying to address this spirit thing, I had S-Box, REMPod, and K2 going the whole time. And at the end of this conversation, if you will, a very, very clear reply back from this thing, referring to it saying, why don't you come down here and talk to all of us? So by down here, I think they mean down in hell, because this thing was apparently picked up on as a demonic entity. So whether I brought that on myself, whatever, whether I, had it come home, I've had a few crazy things happen here in my actual house, which we are actually putting on the market to sell tomorrow. So hopefully no one potentially buying this unit will read or hear this. But there was one night, out of curiosity, just weird things going on in the house that I picked up on when I was asleep, and a few things that woke me up. And one time I set up a video camera, a motion sensor, and my REM pod near the front door. 4:13 in the morning, my REM pod starts beeping. It beeped from 4:13 in the morning till 4:17 in the morning for 4 minutes, and the house is locked. House is locked. We're all asleep, and I filmed it. And yeah, the REM pod starts beeping for 4 minutes at 4:17 in the morning in a locked house. I can't debunk that.
That's crazy.
That was very strange.
And I know you kind of mentioned hell and like demonic entities. So what is your spirituality behind it? What is your rationale for ghosts?
Well, I'd say, like you girls would know, I think it kind of breaks down into sort of maybe two or three categories. You've got the malevolent ones that are angry, bitter, resentful, don't like the fact that they're dead, feel like they have unresolved issues maybe with the living or those that provoke them, and they want to harm us or harm people. Then you've got the benevolent ones, I think, that are lonely, sad. They miss people, they miss the loved ones. They want company, if you will, and I don't mean like as a Casper the Friendly Ghost kind of shit, but that kind of lighter side to it. And then I think there's the ones that are just restless. I don't sort of think that they're out there to harm, but I think there's more or less those two sides to it, and that's sort of the definition, I'd say, of what there are out there.
So, when you're on an investigation, how often do you work with other people like that have gifts, or from, like you said earlier that you had a Native American have to cleanse you? Do you in any situation take people with gifts or from other walks of life like natives on an investigation just for the safety of you and your fellow investigators?
Because there's a large indigenous culture in Australia, right?
Yes, that's it. Well, actually, one of the sites closest to me in Kurnell, which is a suburb about 15 minutes away, that's where Captain Cook landed. So where the country was settled and discovered in 1788, excuse my terrible Aussie history, the actual landing site where Captain Cook first came ashore is 15 minutes from my place. And there is a monument and all this kind of stuff. And the actual name of the Shire, the Sutherland Shire, of where I live, Forby Sutherland is the name of the white settler on the boat, who I think was one of the first white settlers to die. Ashore in Australia, the suburb area here is named after him. His grave, and Joseph Banks, the botanist, his grave is at this site. The Captain Cook Memorial landing place is there. But from what people know, I think from the white settlement in history, is yes, the Aboriginal, the Indigenous tribe, especially from this area, which is the Darawal tribe. From little investigations purely out of curiosity, 3 that I've done at the Captain Cook Memorial site, I even took a basic list of a few Darawal tribal phrases and words, and there is a small Aboriginal meeting place that's like a stone or sandstone circular area where I think is a very intense physical spot for the Indigenous energies that might have been there from 226 years ago. But it's actually down at the monument itself. The last time, which is a huge, big, obelisk. And if you were to Google Captain Cook Landing Memorial or Landing Monument, you'd see it. And we've set up there like all the toys and gear at night. And I remember once with the motion sensors and the REM pod set up within 2 minutes of us getting there, we had lights going off, we had K2 going nuts, and we had very clear, considering the people that were white settlers that came out on the boats, we had very clear Irish accents and English accents coming through. And some of the Irish words and phrases that were coming out weren't the most charming of conversation. A lot of foul language and a lot of swearing. But yeah, if you see my videos, I tend to unfortunately drop a few of those potty mouth words in my videos as well. So it was all good. But I think we had some 220-year-old English and Irish spirits there having a bit of a dummy spit. And I think with the Indigenous people that were around at that time, I think, yes, as most people that know the Aussie history know, there was a lot of death. There was a great slaughter of the Indigenous people back then by the white people and vice versa. So I think in the times that we've been out, and I've brought or asked to bring 2 friends with me. One is actually a lady I work with, and she is from one of the local Indigenous tribes on the other side of Botany Bay. Vicky, she's given me a bit of a heads up on a couple of other places that she's been to, and there's a couple of spots that her native people hold in high regard. I wanted to get her out to some of these nights out with me, but we've had other people that have come along with us before. I think, what was her name? We had someone come with us to sort of corroborate whether a spirit had left a place, because she, and this is the part that sort of had me as a skeptic, she all through an Instagram video picked up on this and picked up on that. And what was her name? Karen somebody, said that the spirit I mentioned before that reached out and sort of swung at step, it's Mary Barrett. She said we showed her in the cemetery where the person was buried, right up the back. She said that, I had to laugh a bit, that Mary came to her in a vision, and she described her as appearing to her as wet and drowned and sort of maybe like, soaked hair. And I don't know how this lady died back in 1897 or something. But this medium told us that this is what she looked like. This is what happened. I've crossed her over to the other side. And I said, okay, you did that. Then, we need proof that she's gone. So we went back to the same grave where we had 2 crazy REM pod activations. One, the day before at 2:00 in the afternoon. The next night on a Friday at 9:00, we had the K2 going crazy and the REM pod as well. When this lady told us that she had crossed over this Mary person, we went back to the grave a week later, complete silence.
Wow.
No activations, no REM pod beeping, nothing. little bit skeptical on that. It might have just been one of those nights where you don't get anything happen. But the other times we've had people come with us, they aren't trained. They aren't trained public, clairvoyants, psychics, mediums, whatever you want to call them. They're just friends of ours, or they're friends of Steph that um, claim that they've seen things since they were a kid, or they pick up on certain things. They have had encounters as a child with spirits that they sort of still have, 50, 60 years on. And they have a sort of, I guess, the word you use would be gift. They pick up on things, or they sense things that that Steph and I don't. But even having said that, this is why it's great to have this lady on board with me. Steph herself, and as I think she will attest to, she is really in touch with the children's spirits.
Mm-hmm. We call them
She just has
Billy and Sally. Billy for little boy spirits and Sally for little girl spirits.
Yes, yes.
well, exactly. There's one crazy ass cemetery way down the coast, about 120 k's away, Harley Hill Cemetery, which we were shown once or twice via a video of a guy that actually, one of the guys, Craig, that got me into this whole field. He was there recording by himself one day, and if I can find the photo, I can tag you on the post later on. He was there by day by himself, and this, what do you call it, this apparition appeared of like a person staring at him with their head tilted, with these strange legs, and there was like a purple figure. And then as he was there in this cemetery, broad light of day, this, you see in the video, this mist kind of floats in front of him in the camera and then past his face. And so I thought, okay, really interested in this place, and we've been there, my God, 3 times by daytime, 4 times at night. I will hands down say this is one of those places where any foreign friends that come to visit, yourselves included, I'll happily take you to the Bloody Mile, and I'll happily take you to Harley Hill Cemetery, because it is a fucking shit your pants kind of a place. It's really active, it's really old, and it's really creepy. And we have had some insane stuff captured there and recorded there. We've had some, Steph herself is still terrified of the place due to some, what would I call it, a 7-foot shadow figure that dropped down. She swears by it to this day, dropped down from a tree and was peering out at her from behind a tree. And I'm 6'2". She said this thing was taller than you, and it had no face, completely black, and I was staring at it. And yeah, we've gone in there a few times, but we haven't stayed around too long, because it's been back to the car and check your undies, bit of a moment. But it's the rush, as you girls know. It's the rush, it's the adrenaline, keeps you going, keeps you sticking around places you shouldn't be a bit longer, but it's all for the capture.
So do you ever think, and which I just want to clarify, it sounds like you believe that certain people can trigger certain situations. Does that sound like a pretty accurate statement?
That's a pretty fair way to put it. Yeah, I think certain people can. I think certain people can't. We've had a lot of experience at the Bloody Mile, where we did 2 in previous visits. We did 2, what would you call it, like nights there, where people, it was the first time we actually did it with this previous group that we were in, where it was like a paid gig, like what you see a lot of the guys that I follow, like the 2 guys from Florida in War Party Paranormal, Eric and Mike, legends. This was an event where people paid, what, $45-$50 to come along, to join us. We bring all the gear, we bring all the tables, chairs, all that shit. All they have to bring, is a torch, a flashlight, and a jumper and decent shoes, and we do all the rest. So they paid, they rocked up. We did a stint where we set up all our gear at like 2 spots along this pathway, and the only deal was that he who shall not be named, who was running the show at the time, had Steph at one sort of crossroads in this pathway by herself at night. I was about 10 minutes down the pathway near a seat, waiting for the rest of this group to come up and walk through the Bloody Mile, this track, and we were both told for it to work the way that it was wanted, we had to do a solo walkthrough, and that was along this path where there is no light. It's covered in trees. There's a bit of moonlight that might come through, and there is a train line that runs past, still with active trains on it. You might get the light from a train passing through every 20 minutes, half an hour. Apart from that, complete sheer pitch total black, to the point where, like this Harley Hill Cemetery, you hold your hand in front of your face, you can't even see your hand. And we were told to walk through and then meet Steph at the halfway point, and then this guy would bring the rest of the group of guests through. I'd do a little spiel about the place and the murders and all the gory stuff, and then we'd walk through furthermore. The second stage where Steph was, that was great. We did make a good, I will say it, a good couple of $100. But the thing was, with this chap that we were with, when we got all the money from the people that paid and happily paid, he kind of decided to keep the money for himself, didn't give us our share. So that kind of left a bitter taste in our mouth. And further involvements with him into the future, we decided to pull the plug on. And yes, as you may have noticed from previous posts that I have mentioned to you girls, that side of us was left well alone. So that's how we started our own thing. We would love to be able to get, especially at 2 locations that we know for a fact no one else has got access to get something started there, if we can get people to come along. But it's one private residence is the oldest house, one of the oldest standing houses in Wollongong, and it's owned by, I'm not going to name drop, it's owned by Steph's son's old school principal. He owns this house. They've done a gigantic, huge refurb on it, and he's actually starting to get. Okay, we actually have found out that in the last few weeks, just after the recent school holidays have finished, they are letting groups of people through the house by day in groups of about 20 or 30 for historical tours and walks and all that. But when we've chatted with this guy, the owner, and mentioned about its infamy and its past, he's told us, yeah, look, I've lived here with my wife and kids, and since we have, my son has said he's spoken to a girl that is there and isn't there. That's not his sister. He's made a special friend in the house that he talks to every now and then. And they said when they were doing some of the refurb, it reminded me a bit of Amityville. I said to the guy, one of the things that he noticed, could he give me details on it? And he said they were taking off the wallpaper to strip back the wallpaper to fix the walls in this renovation. And there's drawings on an old wall that some kid had done before. Wow. Ancient artwork that some kids drawn with crayons and that they didn't even have a clue was there until they did a refurb on the place. He also said too, what gave him interest and a bit of concern was there were a particular tradesmen that would be doing the work on this house, and they refused to enter certain rooms. They said they'll walk outside, they'll bring in the equipment and the gear and wheelbarrows and all that kind of stuff. But some of them of Polynesian descent and Maori and Samoans were very, very strong and very, very spiritual people, and they refused. These big blokes, they refused to enter certain parts of the house. So he said, yeah, something kind of triggered a bit of a reaction in him, and he thought, yeah, there's got to be something to do with this place that needs a bit of further investigation. Steph and I have been waiting to try to get in, but he's a busy man in his education job, and COVID and everything, of course, made an absolutely massive, as I'm sure you girls know. COVID completely screwed our paranormal investigation gigs. We actually had a couple of close calls from police during lockdown where people were supposed to be, in their homes and not leave their local areas. And we had a couple of close calls involving apprehension at 2:00 in the morning in spots where we weren't supposed to be. But I think that, yeah, it's something that's it's going to happen. You're going to take people with you that have negative effect on you. They're going to take people with you that have a special gift or have a special interaction. I think that will get the spirits to either be more active or can be less active too.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna take a quick little break because there is a train passing by and it will affect the audio just a tad.
No
So
worries.
I can still hear it.
I know, that's why I'm like trying to listen for it.
Okay, and I think we're getting close. So I think we finish off with like experiences
Okay, yeah.
because we're already at 40 minutes.
Give me 2 seconds. I'll go grab a drink and come back, huh?
Of course.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
Wait.
We'll wait for you. But yeah, I think when he gets back, we'll do like, and tell us about your favorite experience and your scariest experience, and then we'll wrap it up.
I mean, if you want to aim for an hour, we could.
I gotta get back to Cultivate. We got an event at 7.
Oh.
It's 6:41 now. So I gotta leave like soon. Well, they're getting there at 7 to decorate. So it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but I told the balloon lady I'd be there soon, and that was 45 minutes ago. I was like, sorry, you're supposed to come before 6. Comes at 5:45, 5:55 when I was already here. I was like, oops.
Oh, well.
Oops, sorry. Sorry your lady told you wrong. I made it very clear. We're open until 6 and we were going back at 7.
Oh, wow.
Don't leave us a bad review.
1 star.
1 star.
1 star.
Cultivates 1 star.
Comes on for Corey's show.
He's back.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
And we're
in the
back.
land of living.
Hello. Welcome back.
Boy,
How do you feel?
relaxed.
Okay, good. Great. All right. So we're getting close to wrapping up here. So we're going to finish up with some of your favorite experiences and some of your scariest experiences. Which one do you want to start with?
Favorite. Well, shit a brick. There's probably. That's a doozy.
I'm sure
Favorite.
there's quite a few.
Yeah, I'm completely lost.
Maybe most memorable.
Well, one of the ones I said before that was memorable was I've always been in my in my provoking and antagonism of the dead ones is I'm basically one of those nuts. I want a physical reaction. I want to be slapped. I want to be bitten. I want to be scratched. I want that sort of a weird validation. As I alluded to before, having my backpack tugged on
Mm-hmm.
and to be dragged down and fall on my ass by like something tugged on my bag at that Queen Victoria Hospital.
Yeah.
And I still to this day can't it's it's even got me lost for words. I can't define that. Like nothing was behind me, but there was a full force that dragged my 6'2" ass down to the floor.
Wow.
And I've had
Have you ever felt your life was threatened from a paranormal entity?
yes, but only because I'd
You provoked
antagonized it enough. Yeah, I shit stirred a little bit too much. As I said, the spirit challenged me to a knife fight and told me that they were, quote, S-Box EVP coming after me. They're going after Sean. When I left this place, again, the bloody mile, when you leave this place, as a lot of people that have been able to attest to it, it really fucking drains you. Like you feel like you have, your haunted hangover that you get the day after. Every single time we've left the bloody mile, you feel zapped of energy, drained, tired, sore for no apparent reason. Every time we've been in the bloody mile, I get that. There's a lot of very negative energy there that wants to keep you there, I think. People will also attest to that. Or when you're walking out, it always feels like the walk out is longer than the walk in. And things there, the physical feeling there is they're just dragging you into the bushes.
Wow.
You try to stick to the walkway, the pathway through. Things there definitely want to harm you. Whether I would say that I've had, my life threatened only via EVP, I have. The capture that I reposted the other day when we were at Picnic Island. That was crazy because that was insane. That was a thing that Steph captured on her phone, which was I still can't debunk it, and no one has been able to yet. It's a white, misty, flashy light thing that goes erratically past the camera. That set off REM pods and K2s and everything, and I still can't forget that. That was insane. We're pretty sure that's the ghost of a guy that got stabbed at this location. I think the two big mental hospitals we went to are just so full of energy. There was one night we actually it was more of a human threat, I should say, than spiritual. There was a how can we put it, a rival team that also managed to lurk into the property about 1 o'clock in the morning. They met us, we met them.
Gang war.
There was a
Turf war.
There was a bit of a discrepancy over, well, you guys need to be quiet because we're doing our thing, or you need to shut up too because we're doing our thing. All the while, there's the occasional distance of headlights and security torches going past out the front, and we're like, okay, you've got to be quiet, otherwise we're all going to cop what, $700 to $1,000 fines for trespassing. So that was a bit of antagonism, and that was funny because that night, this is what blew me away at how stupid the arguing got to. As we were having a bit of a disagreement in one sort of room of this common area of this old hospital, I had my REM pod in the corridor next door, and the REM pod started going off absolutely crazy, but we couldn't hear it because we were bickering and arguing until someone goes, "Oi, listen, your REM pod's going off," and no one's able to pay attention to it because we're all bickering and that.
Oh no!
Crazy. But the places, there's two cemeteries that I just refuse to go into at night by myself. I just cannot bring myself to do it. I'll go fully out and say I'm totally chicken shit of these places. The reason why I like them though is because of the old pioneer cemeteries. They are the people that have been there for a long time, and the place in particular, the one at Kembla Grange, that is where on my old bio I did have the SLS video capture of this thing, another formation. How will I say? It was brought to my attention by the other guy who had the SLS saying, warning me that this thing's coming towards you. I quickly vacated the cemetery, went back to the car on the side of the road, and this stick figure was right up on me. I wouldn't say the word dry humping, but this thing was next to me. It was on me, no word of a lie. Wow. And it was, I don't know, moving in a very particularly strange fashion, and this thing was on me. And, if you ask me, the SLS cameras don't lie. You've either got something there or you don't have something there. That was crazy. That was really crazy. But I think the physical side of it too, I think when you know something is either on you, near you, around you, you get that, or I especially get it, that ghost kind of gut vibe where your guts start to turn and you feel like sick and nauseous and cold. I had a experience in a Presbyterian cemetery, and Steph will back me up. I wouldn't totally go so far to say I was choked, but I did enter a Presbyterian cemetery with a satanic pendant around my neck, just for a bit of provoking, as you do. And yeah, I think one of the residents there wasn't too happy, and I started coughing and gagging.
Wow.
In a way I never had before. And Steph was, "Are you okay? You okay, mate?" I said, "No." It was real pressure. Wow. I'd never felt it before anywhere. It was like a pressure on my throat that was restricting my breathing, and it was very uncomfortable to breathe. But yet I walked out of the cemetery and it was fine. It stopped. Went back in to the same grave. I can even visualize the same grave, and it felt like it returned. So that was stuff that I'll never forget. Crazy stuff, but enjoyable.
It's all about the thrill.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I will leave with this one last question, just to kind of, if you had this is kind of be like a spoiler for since we've been kind of messaging you back and forth for a while now, but at the end of the month,
Worth the wait, ladies. Worth the wait.
yeah. So at the end of the month, we plan on being paranormal investigators. We're going to get our certificates. So what is one piece of advice for us and everyone else that potentially wants to do this? What is one piece of advice that you would give us and everyone else?
Keep an open mind. Accept the fact that I know it sounds like almost a sporting goods cliche, but I've seen and experienced things in the last 6 years. I don't think anything is impossible. Things happen for a reason. It's you can have like I kind of alluded to before. I think you can have all the tech and gear and toys and devices and sensors and all that shit, but nothing will ever beat that sort of that sixth sense that us humans have of, like I said before, the gut vibe, when you feel it sort of in your stomach, in your bones, in sort of your subconscious of where something's alerting you to something that maybe shouldn't be there. And you obviously want confirmation and validation of what that might be. I'd say don't ever doubt that something can or can't happen, because from what I've seen, things can happen. In case you haven't picked up on it, I do like the antagonism and the provoking. Yes, it's caused me a bit of drama and a few backwards comments on Instagram about, oh, you can't go doing that, it's disrespectful, blah blah blah. You know what? Sack it. I reckon go for it. Do it. After my previous experience with entry to places, I don't do the trespassing thing, with the exception of once. Legal entry to any place would be appreciated, I'm sure, on all parties. I know a lot of people that get the old urbexy kind of vibe to go sticking their heads in places they shouldn't, and they've paid for it in certain meetings. I just reckon, like, don't also sell out and do it solely for, and I could name people that have done this, but I won't. The financial gain of it. Yes, you can have your nights out and your investigations where you have guests and people come along and they pay for it, and you can have dinner involved as well and all this bullshit and have lockdowns and stuff in places. But don't do it for the money. I don't think it's not worth all that sort of materialistic BS. I can do it for the rush, do it for the investigation, do it for the thrill, the adrenaline, and hell, it's fun scaring the shit out of other people. So that's always a bonus. Bringing a certain, when we've done that kind of a group thing, bringing a wide variety of people along as guests, like older people, younger people. We had once a mother and a daughter come. The mother picked up on stuff that the daughter didn't, or knew a lot more about the history of a place than the daughter did. And I think that kind of side of it, of getting, like, spreading the word, getting and supporting, like the whole point of this chat, supporting the para-unity thing, because there's so many people of us out there doing this thing across the world, and it's so great. Like, I didn't think I'd have as many followers as I did in the paranormal gig that follow me, or I follow them when I started doing this thing. But I just realized after the years that I've done it, there are so many of us special spirits that go getting into this, that are so in-depthly involved in it. So I reckon just go out there and share it with other people.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So they shit themselves.
Yes. The goal is to shit yourself.
Totally.
Oh, well, in that case, I've already done that at least twice today. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Sean. It was a pleasure getting to have an interview with you. I'm so glad we finally got a chat.
Yes.
Yep, worth the wait. Worth the wait. Good fun.
All right, good. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And hopefully we can do this again sometime soon.
We got to do this again.
Yes.
I'm sure you have plenty more stories to tell us.
Mm-hmm.
And new ones.
To see them all you've got to do is follow me.
Yep, there you
Plug.
go. Well, thank you so much. The way we end our episodes is we gotta go, bye. So you gotta join us in the bye, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready? Bye.
Bye.
I went bye too early.
We're good. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
You have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.
You've been listening to The Poltergals.
A Rogue Media Network podcast.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.